Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager from my home to yours. Hello. Otto, of course, next to me. You're the man. You are the man. Do you know that Otto takes his position now as soon as Rodrigo and Megan show up, the folks who put most of these together? It's very sweet, actually. And as I've said to you often, he is not getting conceited being as famous as he is, which is a very healthy thing. We've raised him well. I take a little credit for that. So this is the 101st episode. In honor of that, hi. I'll talk to you about this for a moment. I want people to think clearly on things. The way I think, and I have since I was in high school, I always think about good and evil. I admit it. As soon as I think about something, does it promote good? Does it promote bad? Some things, of course, have no moral quality. I fully understand. If you prefer yellow to blue, that's not a moral question. I don't apply those standards to anything. But I'll give you an example. I know that cigarettes are dangerous. I fully acknowledge that. Cigars are far less dangerous because they're not inhaled. If you inhaled a cigar like you do a cigarette, you would be hurting yourself. I fully appreciate that. And most people don't know the difference. They think they're the same thing, that this is brown and that's white. There are huge differences. One is done for taste and one is done for the nicotine in the cigarette, which is why I think e-cigarettes I know, have helped very many people get off cigarettes with all the junk that's in them and all the carcinogens. And in many parts of the Western world, e-cigarettes are encouraged by medical authorities, like in Britain, because it does take people away from cigarettes, which is a wonderful thing. Having said that, I have always believed that I have two sons. I said before I had children, because I was on the radio before I had kids, and of course, now that they're grown, been on the radio for all of their lives. And I said, if I had a kid, and then I did, I would prefer that my kid smoke cigarettes than smoke joints, than smoke weed. And a lot of people, in fact, I would say most of my listeners who tend to agree with me on many things don't agree with me on that one. And I preface this by saying I think in terms of right and wrong and good and bad. So I always told my kids, I am more worried about your character and your inner being and your mind than I am about your body. And of course, as a parent, I worry about my kids' bodies, obviously. But a kid who smokes a joint every day is, I believe, I think it's hurting him, especially his mind, her mind. And I think it doesn't generally, not always, doesn't generally speak well about character development, whereas smoking a cigarette, let alone a cigar, has nothing to do with character. I would prefer that my kids smoked a lot than drank a lot. Obviously, I mean, I think everybody would have to agree to that. As I pointed out very early on in the anti-tobacco passions that took over society, the vast majority of child abuse, spousal abuse, and violent crime take place or are committed by people who are under the influence of alcohol. But I've never heard of anybody molesting a child or beating up a spouse or murdering someone as a result of smoking a cigarette or a cigar. Neither have you. So why society went crazy against tobacco and not against alcohol doesn't speak well about society's moral compass. That is what I've always believed. So I had this on my radio show about the cigarette versus the weed. And a guy called up and he said, Dennis, I really enjoy you. I respect you, but I got to say, I don't agree with you on this one. My dad, whom I really respected and loved, died at 59. from lung cancer due to cigarette smoking. So I said to him, I asked him a question. I said, I'd just like to ask you a question. Would you have preferred that your dad smoked a joint every day and lived to 89, 30 more years? You'd have had him 30 more years. Or smoked cigarettes and died at 59. And he said, he thought for a moment, and when there's silence on the radio, it's very powerful. And he thought, yeah, there's a recording of it. You can hear it. And he thought, yeah, I'd rather lose my dad at 59 to cigarettes than have a dad who smoked weed every day to 89. So something one might think about when one thinks of these issues through. All right, I just wanted to make a comment on that. Oh, I got another comment. Sorry, before the questions, I got another comment. We just had no electricity in our house for about how many hours? About 17 hours. Because they were fixing on the street that I live, they were fixing the what are they called? Those stands? What are they called? You know, where the electricity, the poles? Yeah, the poles. Yeah. So they were doing some major work on very old poles that needed to be replaced, and it took far longer. So we were out of electricity until 2 a.m., from early in the morning till 2 a.m. And it makes you think, or at least it certainly made me think, about how lucky humanity is to have power, to have electrical power. I mean, this is, it's hot. I don't like heat. I don't sleep well in heat. It was obviously completely dark. So you're sitting in your house and it's very dark and it's very hot. It's not the house that you're used to. We're blessed. We are blessed beyond words to have electricity, to have power, to power cars, to power trains, airplanes, buses, to, of course, give power to hospitals. No power, pretty much no hospital. And I would just like everybody to sit to reflect for a minute on how lucky we are to have had fossil fuel. It is one of the greatest blessings in the history of the world. Either thank nature or thank God or thank both that we have had fossil fuel. Because without that, we wouldn't have civilization as we know it. Massive numbers of people would have died who otherwise would have been treated, would have been transported. Well, how would you transport somebody to a hospital that had no electricity? By horse? Do you realize where we would have been without this power? So when I hear all of this fossil fuel, at least put it in perspective. Thank you, fossil fuel. You want to go into green energy, is it called? Go into green energy. But let's at least have perspective. Thank you, fossil fuel, for making the world of health possible, the world of transportation, the world of communication. It's all been made possible thanks to fossil fuel. The ignorance that dominates the educational system today, the lack of history, the lack of perspective it could kill us. I mean, could kill us as a civilization. If you don't know what has happened, you will not have a future. It is as simple as that. So, but just remember, if we want to kick over the fossil fuel bucket, we better have something really cheap, really effective to replace it. It's very nice and easy to say, oh, we'll just replace it. It's not so easy to do. Oh, it is, by the way. It actually is somewhat easy to do with nuclear power, which is completely clean. The proof, in my opinion, that most of it is hysteria with regard to fossil fuel is that the vast majority of those who are hysterical about the world coming to an end don't advocate nuclear power. That proves, that's not an opinion of mine. This is proof that that's hysteria. Because you have to be a hysteric to prefer at the wind and sun to nuclear. When nuclear works, nuclear power 70%, what is it, of France? Or is it of Sweden? I think Sweden. But France is also vast, maybe both of them. Yeah, those are models to a lot of the people. France and Sweden, you know, they love those places. They're progressive. Okay, here are progressive countries that get their power from nuclear power. I know the objections, and I'm not going to get into them now. We could do a whole thing. The number of people killed by nuclear power in the worst accidents in the world is so infinitesimally small that there is nothing as safe as nuclear power, and it's completely clean. So whenever I hear anybody say, oh, we have to get rid of fossil fuel, are you for nuclear power? If they're not, I don't take them seriously. They are not to be taken seriously. They live in a dream, make-believe world. Okay, got that out of my system. So in honor, too, of this 101st episode, first one after 100, that's what 101 is, well, we're inaugurating sometimes video questions. Is that right? Because I take your questions from all over the world. By the way, it is from all over the world. I asked my staff at PragerU to compile a list of the countries from which questions have come, almost all from young people. And this is where questions came. This isn't all the number of countries. I know it. You don't even have to bring it. I know the number, 51. I memorized it. 51 countries. Right now, I am talking to at least 51 countries, probably close to 100, because we don't get questions from every country that people listen in. This is you know why people all over the world watch this? Because what I have to say is relevant to anybody. I've always believed either what I have to say is relevant to everyone, or it's not relevant to anyone. It's like saying, you know, when I speak about, I've written a commentary on the Bible. It's relevant to Jews, Christians, atheists, Buddhists, Hindus, Shintoists, Muslims. It's either relevant to everybody or it's not relevant to Jews and Christians. That's how I look at it. It would be like saying that Beethoven is only relevant to Germans. This is an idiocy. He has something to say to everybody on earth. In fact, the biggest Beethoven fanatics in the world today are probably in Japan. Okay, so, ready? And here we go. Do I play it on here? Okay. And there we go.
Hi Dennis, my name is Cody Thompson. I am a senior at Augsburg University in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and my question for you tonight is, when fighting for freedom, what is one thing young conservatives can do more effectively? And how do we be more effective in doing so?
Well, that is a great question. Thank you. And I pressed twice. I have this thing mastered, and then press the thing again. What is the one thing you do in fighting for freedom? What a young person would do? The first thing you have to do is understand that you have to fight for it. That's the first thing you have to do. Freedom is not a human instinct. The human instinct is to be taken care of. Liberty is a value. Being taken care of is an instinct. That is why America, and not only America, a lot of countries have liberty as one of its values. It doesn't have being taken care of as a value. It's not a value. It's a yearning. People don't yearn to be free. I show this. If you believe I have wisdom, and I do, and I don't. It's not. I'm not bragging. I don't claim credit for it. I've worked on it, but I got it from somewhere. That's the great problem with education in the West today, that your kids aren't given wisdom. They're given a handful of facts. But without wisdom, it's like having a map. No, you know exactly where you are, but you have no idea where you want to go. Wisdom is, where do you want to go? Anyway, when I write my commentary on the Bible, the Rational Bible, as it's called, in the book of Exodus, the second book, the Israelites are slaves in Egypt. They go and leave Egypt. That's what's called the Exodus. And what is the first thing they do? After all the miracles that got them out of Egypt, they complain. The food isn't as good in the desert, even though they got food every day. Miraculously, whether you believe it or not is not relevant. The lesson is what is relevant. They complained. In fact, they just kept complaining. Because as a slave, they were taken care of. They were fed. Right? They preferred the food in Egypt, the slaves, to the food, the manna, as it's called in the Bible. They preferred the food in Egypt as slaves to the manna in outside of Egypt as free people. So that's the first thing you need to do, is understand it's a value to be fought for. That's what needs to be explained. You might even want to ask, ask your fellow students. Ask, what is more important to you? Freedom/liberty, or that the government take care of you? Send you to school for free, provide lunches and breakfast for free, give you free health care, free tuition, pay off your debts. What's more important to you? Liberty, or to have all your debts paid for by the state? Because, by the way, the bigger the state, the less your freedom. That's a definitional fact of history. It's like E equals MC squared. Big state means less freedom. There's no exception to that. So that's the first thing you need to do, is understand it's a value that has to be pushed for. And then show where it's being removed, like on campuses, like in high schools. You say something that the left doesn't agree with, and you will be often shut down. There was just a study about how many students in college don't write what they actually believe. They're afraid the teacher who's on the left will penalize them for their conservative views. All right, here we go. Mike, 36, Idaho Falls, Idaho, USA. Dennis, hi. My company is requiring all employees to attend unconscious bias training. Whoa, unconscious bias training. I don't have a high opinion and would like to know your thoughts. Many thanks to you and your staff for the excellent content and for fighting for our rights. You're very welcome. Thank you. I find this obnoxious in the extreme, all these meetings, to tell you what a lowlife you are. That even if you don't have a racist bone in your body, you're unconsciously racist. All it says is that the presenter is racist. Whenever a white gets up and says all whites are racist, they're talking about themselves, by definition, right? But it's just not true. It is no more true that all whites are racist than all any other group are racist, or that all of any other group are not racist. Are there racist blacks? According to the left, there aren't. I was taught this as long ago as I went to college and graduate school. A black in America cannot be a racist because they don't have power. I don't even understand what that means. They don't have power. A black senator doesn't have power. A black governor doesn't have power. A black millionaire doesn't have power. What are they talking about? A white guy in a trailer park has power? What are they talking about? This is leftist gobbledygook. And by the way, so if you need power in order to be racist, then you have to admit that all over Africa, blacks can be racist. That's where blacks have power. But they would never acknowledge that because it's all dishonest. I hate these meetings. They remind me of education sessions in communist countries. That's what they did. Re-education camps. That's what they're doing at these businesses. And, it's just an unemployment for people who don't have the talent to do something else. That's how I look at it. What do you do for a living? Oh, I tell people about their unconscious biases. God, I'd like to attend one of these meetings. I really would. Invite me. Okay. Luke 22, Freedom, Pennsylvania. There's actually a city named Freedom. You see that? Soon they may abolish that. Maybe they'll rename Freedom Take Care of Me, Pennsylvania. Right? Right. Okay. Luke 22, Freedom, Pennsylvania. You briefly mentioned that love is possibly the most misused word ever. I was wondering if you could expand on this and give a proper definition of the word love. Oh, I don't have to define the word love. It's exactly what an intense positive feeling. I mean, that's easy, but it's misused. That is correct. First of all, people think that love in and of itself is the great value, but it's not. The people in the Soviet Union loved Stalin. People in China loved Mao. People in Germany loved Hitler. Right? Well, I mean, really loved them. You know how many people were crushed at Stalin's funeral, crushed to death because they were weeping so much? For a man who killed 40 million of their fellow citizens and made them a jail. It was a large jail, the Soviet Union. People could not speak what they thought to their friends in an apartment because they believed it was bugged, and usually it was. So love what? That's what I want to know. Love what? And it's overused even in parenting. God, I love my sons. A healthy person's love for a child it's a unique form of love. That's correct. But my task as a parent was not just to love my children. My task was to build their character. My task was to say no, which is often the most loving thing you can do, obviously. My task was to give them, hopefully, a good male model. That might be more important than love. What would you rather have? A father who was a lousy model who loved his kids, but it was an awful person? Or one who didn't show much love to the children, but presented a good model to the children? It's way overrated, way overrated. You know how many people beat up their spouse and then tell them they love them? It's just way overrated. I'm sorry. And, I think the best example is how many terrible things have been loved. So that's why I think it's way over, not just overrated, but as you write, misused. Yes. What are we up to in time?
23.
Good. Andre, 14 years old, Friesland, the Netherlands. Hi, Andre. Why do you hate communism? So listen, Andre, since I never patronize anybody, I respect you too much. I can't tell you how depressed I am to get that question. Would you have written, why do I hate Nazism? Watch my video. Watch my PragerU video. Why is Nazism hated more than communism? I hate communism for the same reasons I hate Nazism. These were the two most organized evils in the 20th century and perhaps in history. That's why. But I'll bet you don't know about Gulag, where tens of millions were killed by Stalin in the Soviet Union, 60 to 80 million killed by Mao under communism in China. Pol Pot killed almost 1 out of every 3 Cambodians. Communist Pol Pot. I visited the killing fields in Cambodia. I felt it was a moral duty to go there, just as people feel it's a moral duty to visit Auschwitz, the Nazi death camp, where someday 6,000 Jews a day were gassed, shot, and burned. It is a statement of how bad education is. I mean bad. That the vast majority of people, probably under 40, don't have a clue as to what communism did. That's because the left are the educators, by and large. And I knew from a very early age, and I was a liberal Democrat a good part of my life. but I knew I was never a leftist because the left doesn't hate evil. I hate evil. My favorite verse in the Bible is those who love God must hate evil. You can't, if you don't hate evil, you can't love God. I love that verse. If you hate evil, you'll hate Nazism and you'll hate communism. Period. Ryan, 36, Paradise, Newfoundland. I've been to Newfoundland a couple of times. I've enjoyed it very much. Dennis, throughout my young adulthood, I was a radical leftist. I made many poor life choices whilst under that spell. Thanks in large part to you, that spell has been broken. In the past, I believed the institution of marriage was silly and that casual relationships and even polyamory, that's more than one at a time, were more enlightened lifestyles. Today, I am engaged to be married to the love of my life. I'm, needless to say, delighted for you. Nevertheless, I remain in the aftermath of my confused youth. I feel as though 10 years behind in my life, trying to catch up, running out of time to start a family. What advice do you have for those of us trying to build a life after leftism? Thank you so much for your work, and please give Otto a pat on the head for me. With pleasure. You're the man. I love the guy. Yeah, I love him. That's love. I love my kids more. But he didn't hear that. It's a very excellent analogy. You did lose those years. They're like drugs and alcohol. Alcoholics, let's say you're an alcoholic till, what are you, 36? So when does he say, okay, let's say you're an alcoholic till 30. When you become sober, you are the age you were when you became an alcoholic. Those years passed, but you didn't grow. So if you became an alcoholic at 18, you're 30, but you're 18. You have a lot of catching up to do. When this is analogous, I don't mean liberal. I always make a distinction. I mean leftist. It's look, anyone who believes marriage is silly, and that is a common left-wing belief, old-fashioned, silly, unnecessary, and so on. Not anyone, but if you have an antipathy toward it, like it is often expressed, that's an example of losing time. Believing that, are you American? You're Canadian. Okay. But believing that a good country is a bad country, that bad is good and good is bad, those are lost years. I acknowledge it. So the only answer is revel in the fact that you're now sober, that you can now see the world morally clearly, that you're not angry all the time. There's no such thing as a non-angry leftist. There are non-angry liberals. There are non-angry conservatives. There are angry conservatives. There are angry liberals. But all leftists are angry. And they cultivate the anger. You're a woman, you should be angry at men. You're a black, you should be angry at whites. You're Hispanic, you should be angry at Anglos. And you name the group. You're gay, you should be angry at straights. It's not a healthy world. It's a very important question. Mike, 16, Whitensville, Massachusetts. Hello, Mr. Prager. Hello, Mike. Hope all is well. All's a big word, but it's pretty close in my life. I'm very blessed. In history class, our teacher tried to tell us that what we Americans did to the Native Americans was a genocide. Your thoughts, thank God, and thanks, God bless. There was a massive death among American Indians or Native Americans. Look. My motto is first tell the truth, then give your opinion. It's not deniable that vast numbers of Indians died as a result of Europeans settling in the Americas. There's not just the United States. I mean, who populated the world before the Spanish and Portuguese got to South America, right? So it's funny how nobody talks about that. That's true. But the vast majority of American Indians died of smallpox because they didn't have any of the, I guess, antibodies is the word. Their bodies could not fight off European diseases brought with the Europeans. They weren't given smallpoxes. I know the story well. They had smallpox infested blankets that were given out. Whether that happened or not, I don't think has been corroborated, but if it happened once, and I'm not even sure it's effective. They simply got horrible diseases as a result of Europeans coming in. It's a tragedy. The Native American experience is a tragedy. There is no way around it. But that there was an intended and genocide, that I don't believe. There was a lot of killing. There was a lot of killing in both directions. There was no place on earth that was settled by new people that didn't involve death. I'm not happy about it. I'm not excusing it. I'm merely stating a fact. What country in the world, what European country was settled without people who were already there being killed? This is the human condition. That's why making good people is the most important thing we could ever do. That's why I believe in the Bible as the first book ever to have somebody announce, nation shall not lift sword against nation. Isaiah the prophet, 2,500 years ago. That's a big deal. That's the dream. That was the dream. Then the long, difficult, mixed bag road of movement toward goodness could take place until a civilization actually gave women rights, Western civilization, actually abolished slavery, Western civilization, actually developed democracy, Western civilization. So if we want to undo Western civilization, that's going to be more mass murder and death. The human being is not basically good. Therefore, the question is not why was there evil. The only intelligent question is why was there good. Same thing with poverty. Poverty is the human norm. The question is not why was there poverty. The question is why was there ever any affluence? And the answer is capitalism. Capitalism has lifted billions of people from poverty. Those of you who are against capitalism don't love people. You love ideas. I love people. So I want to know what works to give them a better life. Capitalism is one of those things with all its flaws. Nothing is perfect, but a lot of things are terrible. Important thought to end on. Dennis Prager here. See you next week. Thanks for being with me. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to keep these Fireside Chats free, please do by donating to PragerU.